What did you think of Oxygen?
What did I think of Oxygen? Okay, so going in, I was very, very excited for this one. Especially because of the way you described it to me.
Oh.
In our expectation video, you said that Jamie Matheson had called it pitch black satire. Those words stuck with me. And I thought, well, when Doctor Who reaches into satirical territory, that's usually gold. And also, I was encouraged by how minimalist it looked. I mean, I know you've got the sort of dead zombies, but it didn't look like the monster was the centerpiece of the story by any means. And that is exciting as well.
Well, I'd say it delivered on both those points.
Yes, I would as well, as it happens. It's sort of a quiet episode for the most part, but with little bits that reminded me of the film Gravity, where it's sort of like the harshness of the vacuum of space is part of it. But they're almost saying, okay, space is harsh, but capitalism is harsher.
Interesting. Well, it reminded me of Alien, the 79 movie. Now,
what a fantastic film.
Of the Alien and Aliens have extremely strong themes of capitalism and human life becoming worthless in the future in comparison to potential profit. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Jamie Matheson, even subconsciously, thought that this episode set in space, with being a story about life being worthless in the algorithm. I'm fairly sure there's a strong connection there.
Yes, and I mean people often talk about the merits of sci-fi as something to shed light on where we're headed, as like a warning sign. You know, I think a huge part of the reason people are so terrified of artificial intelligence is because of the films that have warned us about them. So HAL in 2001: A Space Odyssey probably shook a generation sufficiently that we're now always suspicious when someone says, I've got this great new machine that can basically do everything for you. And Doctor Who is sort of considered maybe lighter sci-fi, but here it proves it's just as able to convey these important messages.
It's certainly what they've been doing more and more since Capaldi became the Doctor. I imagine, maybe it's too early to assume, but I imagine that will fade away under Chris Chibnall. But you never know. You never know.
So, Stephen, tell me about 1979 film Alien.
I think it's pretty good. And also, being one of these outer space, horror, crew getting picked off type films, also there's a very, very strong theme of man being the true enemy. Man and his goddamned capitalism, which resonated throughout this entire episode. And not even in an I'm analysing it this way, they say it in the episode. The Doctor analyses the episode for us. He says, capitalism, you're shit, mate.
Yeah, I know. I wonder sometimes whether that was too overt. Maybe whether if he didn't say the word capitalism, that it would have caused a bit more reflection.
Sure, I don't mind, because I think the Doctor is exactly the sort of character that would be against something like capitalism. Especially the Capaldi one.
Absolutely.
Who's he's just a hippie, isn't he?
It's like they are actually sharpening the Doctor's political stances, and I mean, even in Doctor Who magazine issue number whatever, when Donald Trump was running for president, Stephen Moffat wrote, "Okay, so the Doctor doesn't really care about politics, but he hates Donald Trump, and he's absolutely he is absolutely apoplectic about the idea that Donald Trump could become president of the United States." That was the beginning, almost.
Yeah,
I wonder,
absolutely.
Maybe the Doctor is now forced to get political.
Well, certainly, I think the Doctor would be disgusted by recent political events. He's definitely pro migrant. He's pro Zygon communities being, integrated into the British society. He's pro He's anti-capitalist. He thinks money is far less important than human life. Yeah, I don't think these are new things. I think it's quite obvious that this is what the Doctor's mantra is, what his beliefs are.
Stephen Moffat has always, I think, been looking deep into his own mind for stories to tell. Even in the next one, which we'll talk about at a later date, it's basically a story about how nothing is real. So, evidently he's been doing an awful lot of reflection, and that's coming down onto the page. I don't see Chris Chibnall doing that, I agree with you. I was going to ask you as well about Oxygen. Seeing it's sort of a base under siege story with a couple of unique characters like the Blue Man, who I'm assuming is the same species as the one we saw in The End of the World in Series 1.
Oh, I see. Not Dorium.
Or maybe Dorium, who knows? I mean, I don't know, is it said?
Dachren. Dorium.
Oh, okay, so... Alright, there you go then. Maybe I'm wrong there. But I'm wondering, do you
Knowing
think as
Doctor
a base
Who
under siege...
and its SJW attitude, I bet Dachren and Dorium are boyfriends because they're trying to shove gay down my throat.
The homosexual agenda. Yeah,
absolutely.
God.
That never happened in Russell T Davies' time.
No, there was no gay people there. Certainly no attempt to tell us in any way explicitly that homosexuality was okay and we should embrace it.
Yeah. Here's the thing, I don't think the Doctor even acknowledges sexuality. He's been married a few times, but I don't think... It's not about sex for him, is it? It's about emotions and it's about adventure.
Exactly.
I don't think the Doctor even registers that Bill being attracted to women is different from Amy being attracted to Rory.
Yes.
To him, it's just the same, just inconceivable thing.
I just thought about how much of an antithesis Tom Baker as a person was to that.
Wow.
The idea of the Doctor being asexual and then just some of the filthy crap he came out with. Anyway, yeah, so... Do you think, as a base under siege story, this would have benefited from being a two-parter, or do you think it works better as one?
I think the central action of the episode is surprisingly short, but I don't think it was missing anything. I think the only thing that you could argue this episode is missing is slightly stronger incidental characters, you know?
Yes, I would agree.
But I think Jamie Matheson is a really intelligent writer, and all the different sources, all the different obstacles that get in the Doctor's way, he writes the episode so that every time one problem is solved, they have to solve it by creating what could be a slightly worse problem, and it keeps going like that. It's like dominoes falling over. It's really, really compelling writing. I think it's really just so clever.
Yes, and culminating in the ultimate problem, the Doctor is blind.
Oh, fantastic. It's so brutal, isn't it? This
It
episode is
It's
so
shockingly
brutal.
Of all the things we've seen, the idea of the Doctor being blinded by removing his space helmet to save his companion, it's the ultimate act of sacrifice. There's been many of them throughout the time of Doctor Who. Many people. Many times the Doctor has sacrificed himself. Of course, he had to forget Clara and all that stuff. But this one is somehow more tangible.
To see him physically maimed is very disconcerting because, as a character, he's so rarely on the back foot. And I'm so glad that Stephen Moffat decided to keep the blindness in a number of following episodes. I suspect only 2. I suspect Pyramid at the End of the World is getting his sight back. But...
You think so, right.
To have lasting damage done by this episode gives it more weight.
Oh, absolutely. I'm all in favour of things directly and harshly informing the plot arc. Something that comes along and disrupts the natural order so that it's not just Monster of the Week and now the next one and now the next one. I love it when there's an overarching theme. Series 9 was terrific at that, for example. Just lasting impact as a permanent fixture. Really appreciated it. I'm trying to think of what else to say about Oxygen. It's just that I found the deoxygenated zombies quite freaky. The idea of the suits moving all by themselves
Yeah.
was something, but carrying the corpses with them, it was sort of vile, but not
Yeah.
Death in Heaven vile. I keep going back to that one because that one was about corpses and about the dead are walking and stuff like that. This somehow treaded a
Yes. I think Death in
more
Heaven
appropriate
was...
line.
Yes, I agree with you. I think Death in Heaven was quite disgusting, whereas this was more, maybe the word, it was well, I say brutal because it was brutal, but somehow you felt you could get through it. You weren't so fundamentally, your sense of decency wasn't so fundamentally undermined by it. You know?
Yes, quite. Nardor was obviously present in this one, providing a little nice comic
Yes.
relief.
And again,
Do you think, as a second companion as well as a sort of third main character who pops in every
Yeah.
once in a while, he works just as effectively?
I think he was really good in this episode. I think he
Me
was
too.
even better in the following episode. And when we talk
agree.
about extremists, I think I can go a little more in depth into what I mean by that. I
Yes.
absolutely love that he is there. I will say, I think Matt Lucas is not the most convincing performer as what we understand as a human, but it's okay because he is more comic, and he is also meant to be an alien. That it doesn't quite matter that he acts differently, you know?
Yeah, he does look like
Yeah.
another species in a sense.
It's like if he was
looks-
meant to be, I don't know, like a new Danny Pink or something, or a new Rory, or someone who worked in the cafeteria with Bill, it wouldn't work at all because you can't buy Matt Lucas as a person really. But as an alien, it gels. It gels for me.
They often get comedians to play aliens, don't they? Like with David
Yeah.
Walliams coming in to play the Tivoli. What else? What other comedians have we had?
I think Paul Kay might be his name to play a Tivoli.
Yes, I don't know whether he's got a history with comedy, but he was very good there.
Oh, no, he does,
Yeah, I
yeah.
just think in general, their sort of unique voices and personas lend itself well to a sort of non-human trait. Yeah, so I think I agree with you about Nardole. I think in the next one he somewhat comes into his own, where he can do all sorts of things. I think Stephen Moffat's having a lot of fun writing this character.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to have to get onto that. Extremis is a very interesting one and a total break, in my opinion, from the rest of the series and how it's done. I mean, I think Extremis and something like Knock Knock are on the two opposite ends of the Doctor Who scale when it comes to how a story is done. But that's going to have to be something we get onto. Because we don't know how that story is wrapped up yet, because it is a three-parter from the looks of it, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Do you want to talk about our expectations for the rest of the series, or do you think that's...
I'd have to think about what my expectations are first. Something that I love about it so far is that it has been able to surprise me with new ways of doing things, new ways of introducing the companion, new things for the secondary, the male companion to do, having the Doctor be maimed in the way that he was. I thought, I think I wanted to keep surprising me, and it's difficult to see how it's going to do, because certainly with Extremis, the story was sold on the idea of this book that can kill you if you read it, but that's so not what the episode is about. That was just the hook to get you interested, but the rest of the episode is so much about something different that I think certainly with the next two episodes, Pyramid at the End of the World and The Lie of the Land, I'm hoping that those hooks are they're going to be part of the story, but what the story is really about is something else, something bigger. So I guess my predictions would be, I want to be surprised. I want it to be unpredictable.
Well, yes, I'm already surprised by how the relationship between the Doctor and the Master is now working. It's just so although it's something else completely from what we're used to. So that in the first place, and then I'm just hoping plenty of involvement with Bill. I want to see as much Bill as possible. I want her to be, because we've seen how great a companion she can be. I want that to be absolutely central. I don't want it to get too lost in all the any Time Lord lore, as I expect it will do at points.
What a shame!
Keep the focus on Bill.
What a shame that she's only going to be here for one season. Because
Absolutely.
she's done an absolutely stunning job.
Absolutely, no, it is a little tragic, isn't it, that we only get her for one series, but we got like 3 series of Clara. Not
Yes.
that I minded as such, but how much more of an impact did Bill make as soon as she stepped on screen? Like the second she's talking to him in his office, we know who she is.
Yeah.
Oxygen represents a terrific moment in their story where he demonstrates, his attachment in a new way that is it reminds me a little bit of the sacrifices he makes in Heaven Sent. They're also very bodily. They're he's bleeding from his face, his hands are cracking, he's barely able to move, and it's all for Clara.
Yeah.
Similar thing here. I think maybe Capaldi, more so than some of the other Doctors, has been able to show that element of sacrifice.
Yeah.
And yes, I agree. The characters in Oxygen could have been fleshed out more. But
that's the only thing. And actually, I think it's sort of superfluous to the story because the story's not about them. And it's also about learning how Nardol's going to fit into the regular team, and it's about, as we say, the capitalism thing, and it's about the scares, and we need to keep the Doctor and Bill at the center of the action. We didn't need them to be fully rounded characters, but maybe with an extra 5-minute screen time, which they didn't have, there could have been just that little bit more detail put in.
Or I suppose you had that nice wrap-up of the woman at the beginning and at the end, when she
Yes.
There's closure on that issue. It reminded me a little bit of the...
she was... What did it remind you of?
Sorry, I was just going to say, it reminded me of at the end of Before the Flood, we have the Scottish girl... or whatever, or someone strikes up a romance with someone else. I think it's the blind person and and her interpreter. But you've got also the Scottish woman who's died, and there's a bit of a somber moment about the fact that she's missing. And even though it's a small moment, technically speaking, within the story, it's given a nice sense of closure, even though it's that small. I feel a similar thing about this one. That we didn't necessarily need that bit, but I appreciated it.
Yes, I agree. I think, ironically, she was the most rounded of the secondary characters. She was the most believable and interesting, even though she was only alive for about a minute.
Yeah, actually, that's true. Just a little bit of dialogue at the beginning, following the Doctor's very nice monologue about space. You know what impresses me about Jamie Matheson is that I think it's clear that he's always been ambitious, like with The Mummy on the Orient Express. I'm not a huge fan of The Mummy on the Orient Express, but lots of cool ideas, lots of unique ideas stuffed into one thing. He's clearly very, very imaginative, very experimental. And then when it came to The Girl Who Died, I think he said that the first draft, which was somewhat neglected by Stephen Moffat, had the Doctor basically crashing a great big Viking ship into Valhalla or something. It was like something ridiculous.
Oh, wow.
And so I think he always starts big, probably. But then with Oxygen, it feels like he's sort of reduced it down to something... I don't know, it's something very different. And I get the sense that Jamie Matheson is very adaptable and has a lot of different writing talents that he can bring to the table.
Some good range, yeah.
So, very impressed with Oxygen and really liking this series so far, I have to say. Obviously, there are weak spots, but at the moment we have such a great centre of gravity in this Doctor and companion trio. I'm enjoying Capaldi very much while I can as well.
Yes, me too.
We've barely talked about him actually, just as him and the fact that this is his last series. I mean, I don't know. I'm just sort of enjoying as it comes, as I enjoyed Matt Smith's last series, not knowing it was. I don't know. He's still great. He still absolutely fits into the character. He's still got intense charisma. What else can you say? And there's a lot still to come. A lot of very exciting things. I'm looking forward to the Eaters of Light, the sort of quiet Rona Munro one. I'm looking forward to seeing how Mark Gatiss pulls off. See if Mark Gatiss can do a script that we love. I wonder if that's possible. And then, God knows, the finale could be anything. But all I know is Capaldi finally gets to come into contact with what he's been asking for ages, the Mondas Cybermen.
Yeah, good. Looking forward to it.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording. We'll see you next time for Extremists.
See ya.